Oh, Khashane, remember when you said to me, it doesn't matter if people say you're nice. And then we went out and the bouncers pepper sprayed you twice. Oh, Kashi, where art thou, Kashi? It's been Hashi. Come back, Kashi.
I believe that what I go through constitutes to who I am now.
It does.
I'm still a piece of shit. I won't lie. I am.
Yeah.
I am, but I'm a different piece of shit now.
Yeah.
I'm still not a businessman. I still don't like the term.
Yeah.
But I'm still Kashi.
Yeah.
I'm still a guy that can go to any goddamn hood, I believe.
Yeah.
In South Africa, and be like.
In a time where South African rap is becoming increasingly obscure and trapped in a place where the trap movement seems to be dominating the airwaves and seemingly the aesthetics of the culture, it leaves a very trepidant place for OGs to kind of establish themselves. Port Elizabeth hip hop is a place that has been riddled with MCs of different sorts, from your typical battle MCs to those with a kind of flair to reach the potential panache of the commercial world. We enter into a place where rappers are growing older, growing wiser, sometimes not even taking cognizance of the fact that their age goes with a certain level of dialogue that might not relate to younger audiences. But what that has created is an interesting discussion between the legacies of how these rappers navigate what many would call the last years of their window into rap potential. And by rap potential, I'm talking about directing your conversation towards an audience that's beyond your generation. We still live in times where people believe that hip-hop is a young man's game, but we see increasingly the fact that that's not very much the case. Pop culture might be a young man's game, but we're seeing that the old heads are maturing and allowing themselves to talk about their quote-unquote grown man raps. Divorce, growing up, the stress, having children, putting them to school. These are all topics that are becoming relevant amongst rappers that we've revered as young stars talking about popping bottles and fucking hoes, but are now in a different space. A space that calls for more reserved, contemplative action. An adult space. And many don't talk about adult rap and the politics of that. And I think the opportunity to capture the essence of adult rap and what it means for rappers on the horizon of youth is this interesting banter between two MCs that come from the particular province of South Africa, who have sparred out in something that has generated a hype that is interestingly fascinating because it ties into this politics. I'm gonna talk about both of these MCs and how they're coming together in a friendly duel, and the eventual battle which is to ensue in September is the consolidation of where adult rap is to go in South Africa. I'm here to talk about Epic, the scriptwriter, and Khashane, and what their battle holds in the significance of SA hip-hop as a whole. This is The Headspace. My name is VJ, the brother from the ancient mother. Let's get into it.
Yeah, so I had to make a song for it. Had to put my name on it. Gotta make it big. Hence I put my man Jay on it. Pay for it? Maybe when I get this change sorted. But it's still cliche. Okay, change now. I got your back, son. Got rhymes for each make. Constantly working hard. No time for beat breaks. Cats whine like T-Pain and we shine on each take. So let's bind like cheap crates to vinyl DJs. That alone could sort of push me to get even and rhyme. Till in Japan they order sushi with your beats on the side.
Okay. Cock ambitious. The baker's man can like a box of biscuits. And if you think that you're a doper rapper, don't come after me cause you get broken, bastard. My flow kinda like when the oceans crashes on some mansions floating next to molten ashes. Do you even know what a daunting task is? Let a match stick with a thundering bolt that flashes. The blade razor sharp may break your heart. Your mainframe looking like it's 10 days apart. And you can rhyme me in PE with that shit. I'll slice a circle of friends like a pizza package.
Port Elizabeth is a city crouched in a certain kind of privacy, an idea that it is hidden for the most part from the rest of South Africa, but secretly it's been cultivating some of the most exciting MCs that the rest of South Africa arguably hasn't had the time to receive. Now, some of the most interesting MCs to come out of this place are these two particular cats right here. Epic, who, to be formal and correct with it, comes from Grahamstown, now Makanda, is basically a small town MC with big aspirations and an animated personality that speaks to the humor that a lot of people want when they listen to their raps. Hip-hop tends to be serious to a point where the hypermasculinity overrides an everyday listening experience that most people would enjoy. Epic comes with a simplicity. He comes with a jokey, jester-like style that says everything is okay as long as you don't take yourself too seriously. His projects have spanned the theme of this beautifully and delicately. Calling himself Epic the scriptwriter, his project Cinematography, in affiliation with the True Sight Music crew, which was basically Port Elizabeth's super crew, consisting out of MCs like the legendary J Bucks. Hisham was a collective of MCs which colored the Bay with a range of skills that were really contributing to the air of what rap was in at that particular moment. Epic came with something new. He presents himself as a literal narrator of other people's stories, projecting himself into the background and choosing to tell the story more from an invisible place that allows him to kind of move in this godlike structure where he can laugh and be as serious as he wants to because the content is not in his hands and in his life. But I think in the duration of his evolution, with the sequel for Cinematography, the Green Album, and eventually reaching the album that felt the need to speak to something a little bit more personal to who he was, to the point where it was literally an ode to his real name, Munangam. So spoke to him, kind of flashing back to a place where eventually he tells people who he is. That beyond the mountains and hills of the villages and the small towns, there is the desire to become something that capitalism hasn't understood. Epic is an MC who has, in his prime, impressed more than just the Jersey Underground, more than just the YFM era, more than just particular rap battle league circles, more than just hype sessions. He is an MC who has established himself in more formal networks than most rappers in South Africa would desire to even have. And as a result, he's in this place of liminal victory. It feels like a win. The resume is strong. He's clicked all the buttons that need to be clicked for a South African MC, and yet the mass appeal is not there. The broader public relations is not there. And is that his fault? Are more smaller MCs with smaller budgets relegated to this place where they become some of the greatest unknown rappers that we know? We being the particular hip-hop head demographic. This is the question mark that hangs over Epic the scriptwriter's head as he comes into this moment where on Facebook casually probing South African hip-hop to the extent where it feels as if the agitation of not having reached the point of the pinnacle is the root, might be the root. Nevertheless, he speaks in a voice that is confident enough for people to gulp his messages with a level of respect, and for naysayers to dismiss his allegations of being greater than everybody with a certain pinch of salt that is because of the moves that he's made on a professional level. But this moment with Khashane presents something different, because in Khashane is almost the mirror reflection of Epic in another way. This binary presents itself as a moral structure. Here we have Epic, seemingly the good guy, dancing and jovially moving upon the roads of SA hip-hop with a smile on his face and with a fertile green color aesthetic, telling people that it's gonna be alright in a motivational tone. And on the other side, we have the darkness, the cringe, the hoodie wearing, alley walking moves of Khashane, who pretty much doesn't give a fuck about anybody other than the fact that he's dope at what he does. It seems through Epic and Khashane, we have the classical mold of the hero and the villain. And as we know today, sometimes the villain is more exciting. Khashane represents an impulse that is increasingly becoming relevant. With the advent of the anti-hero comes an open loophole into considering the fact that why do we even respect quote-unquote good guys? It's because they are the ideal idea of the things we could be if we could get ourselves together. If everything that we knew we were could find itself in a place where we could become contained. But villains are more. Villains are wiry. They leak through the patterns and the creaks. They represent the imperfect representation of humanity. A villain is trauma encapsulated in the form of revenge. And I think if we're talking about the realest thing to actual life, the villain is the archetype that speaks to what life really is. And a lot of media has increasingly shown the reality of a villain in true form, not just a simple caricature of the ha bad guy who does things for no particular reasons than enjoying the malice. We now understand through narratives of the Joker and the trickster that the villain is really the spoken trauma of somebody who still has to unravel the self. And as black people, isn't that what we are? And I feel that Khashane speaks to that, having himself navigated through the areas that many SA rappers consider pivotal, but still kind of lurking through these murky waters, seemingly without a care, which is the secret ingredient to the flair that keeps the cult masses of his core following flowing to his social media site for every status that he seemingly posts. It's this idea that I know I'm good, but I don't care. Because the idea of how good I am is not validated by the people. It's validated by my own development. And I think this is the parting binary, where Epic represents the aspiration reaching out to the people saying, let's go together, while Khashane says, ultimately, we will all end up alone. So who do you prefer? Are you alone in your room considering who you are at the end of the day? Or do you dissolve yourself into the collective engagement of human reality? There's no easy answer. This is why this battle is so interesting. I don't think it's a matter of skill. Both MCs have shown that they're borderline good as rappers, although the verdict is out over whether or not their stylistic specialties are broad enough to relate to the same kind of markets. The only thing that we can say, or at least I can say for a fact, before this battle ensues, is that we have two mirror images of a very important binary structure. We have one rapper who invites us to become part of a collective experience and join him in being together. And then we have one rapper who reminds us that togetherness might just be an illusion we tell ourselves because we yearn to find ourselves in others, but ultimately we can only decipher our own identities. Khashane and Epic are the epitome of a human journey, of a living journey. They might be PE rappers, but this story is bigger than PE, or GQ, as it's now called. And while many are waiting for this battle on September, the one thing that we can say for a fact is that in the words of Dead Prez, it's bigger than hip-hop.